Hi there, everybody. King Arthur here, wearing all black, going with Queen Soledad to pay respects to Jim, the host of our house church. He is with the Lord, alive and well, alive and kicking. Um, an intro was in order because of something that happened yesterday to the intro that was prepared a day in advance. So I want to explain. But first, before I forget, I'm on the clock. I want to break down, it's one of the entering class at seminary questions that are thrown, and you would be surprised how you go in feeling, well, I got this, and woof. The Ten Commandments. I am the Lord your God who brought you out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. You shall have no other gods before me. You shall not make any graven images, grave, dead images of me. 6 days you shall labor and do all your work, but the seventh day is a Sabbath. This is critical because today's focus is on the 10th commandment, but the third and the 10th are related, and I'll tell you how. You shall not lie. That's the one that a lot of people miss. You shall not misuse the name of the Lord your God. Honor your father and mother that your days may be long, B-E, long in the land which the Lord your God gives you. You shall not kill, you shall not commit adultery, you shall not steal. You shall not bear false witness, which misusing the name of the Lord and bearing false witness, they are kind of bookends as well. That's a discussion for another day. And then finally, the 10th one. Do not excessively pursue temporary trappings, table scraps of life. Do not covet. Do not seek aggressively too many mergers and acquisitions. Be at peace. Be at peace with what God gives you during this first go round, during this first passage of life. Yeah, maybe you and I cannot enjoy edible gold leaf on a tender, juicy steak whenever we feel like, big deal, big deal. Are you happy? Ah. So, Jim was bedridden during house church. They have a bed in the middle of the living room, and he was always welcoming, always with a smile on his face. This is my takeaway from the little time that I had with him. He was in charge of the music ministry portion of the gathering, and I sometimes liked what he picked, and sometimes I didn't like the order in which it was coming in, because I like to hear the meat and potatoes first, and then maybe, not maybe, this is just my preference, then hear music afterwards. But he would launch into music at the beginning, and one time I had suggested a song. Ooh, as is my style, right? Not necessarily to the extent of being a bull in a china shop, but to because I had wanted him to think outside of the box more than anything, to enrich the entire group on that day. And it was a song from Johnny Cash that I shall be providing on today's observance as we're heading out to the newest military national cemetery, where he's going to be sent off officially. Your last breath here, your first breath there, as we have been trying to teach you across the last several days, if not weeks. My uncle, Mike, is in the first row of the veterans at the National Cemetery there. The newest one is here in Batman's neighborhood, and we're going to pay respects to both of those guys, who are now brothers in arms. The work doesn't end until the whole thing is resolved, right? It's academic, mind you. We already know how the story ends. We win, victory in Christ, but we are co-scripting a very happy and near future ending. That has yet to be completely written out. So you can participate And for every breath that you have here, spiritual carpe diem, seize it, seize those opportunities wherever and whenever they arrive. More material is going to be available to you here. That's our daily digital devotional, manna infilling. You are not going to find anywhere else. And then this is our hands-on. And please give us a hand, because we, although today's message is about not worrying, that is different than asking. It's sometimes difficult for people who are too haughty-taughty to say alms for the poor. But in this case, in that case, it's literally give us a hand to help those who have been slammed by economic disruption. We make actual physical care packages that go out on literal Skid Row in San Diego. So I wanted to talk about the 3rd and 10th, how they relate, commandments now. I've worn many hats in service to God. One of them was as host of a men's group. And during one particular time, I was talking about the unique placement of preacher, teacher, evangelists, ministers, pastors, whatever you want to call me. I self-deprecate, and I know what I mean. My secret ID, my secret identity in Christ is clearly delineated as Batman in the comic books. Honorary, by the way, figurative superhero spiritual avatar representing the promise of things to come when on that day with permanent infilling of the Holy Spirit to become one. Christ's bridal party, marital language used to describe that compact and covenant, championing the causes nearest and dearest to God. So the unique situation of Ambassador Batman, who in the comic books is leader of the crime fighters of the Justice League, fits with what I'm trying to do here with you, is to get us on the same page, right? The divisiveness. We've been talking about demonic mathematics. They're trying to divide and conquer, literally. What's happening in Davos in Switzerland is a literal attempt at that, and plenty of resources like at the site that I just showed you talking about that. So the preacher teacher, Batman, is being fed, has this hunger. That is separate, seeking the Lord on a regular basis, turning to the good book, cracking it open. Don't let it gather dust on a bookshelf. Many of you received it out there as a wedding present, and it's at the top of a curio cabinet, and you never use it. It's a paperweight that has lost its effectiveness. It's only as good as you turning it, breaking it in, and using it like a rented mule. Yeah! And then you see the difference in quality of life for those who actually do that versus those who don't. In the case of Batman, this issue of rest for the hunger of the Lord, that's one thing. But rest for mergers and acquisitions of things that you don't get to take with you. We are not King Tut. This is not where you can take your cats. King Tut was buried with a lot of cats to guard him against when entering the land of the dead. None of that applies. None of that applies. Although the Lord, this is extra biblical. This is not part of the official narrative. The Lord is going to, on the new earth, reunite me with my cherished pets. Otherwise, I put in that request already, and you can ask for things, and that for me is right here, certified. So this issue of Sabbath, when the preacher's working all the time, not the preacher's necessarily drawing a paycheck at your get-rich-quick prosperity gospel sham, Ola, Stencho, but the people that are really, really walking this journey out, or in this group's case, Speedy Gonzalez, running this journey out as fast as we can. On one occasion, leading the men on a lesson, was saying, well, the 6 days you shall labor and do all your work, the 7 days is a Sabbath of rest, but for the people that are in charge of groups, spiritual leadership, you're welcome, lots of hours. It's a full-time job, this one, let alone working in the taxi. Laying groundwork for the near future Christian theocracy. One king, men and women, the neck. The head wants to move with the neck, the leader. But prepping that is a daily journey, 24/7, 365. Remember, where your treasures are, that is where your heart is. So I'm not talking about the pursuit of possessions here on earth, trinkets, if you will. I'm talking about the everlasting riches, the beyond. And that's what you should always never exhaust in the tank. Always have hunger for that. Spread that embers and fragrance out to you. I have it to give it. The outpouring, the abundance from my bodily holy oil lamp. Yours should be running, overflowing. You should never be on the dregs, on those little pieces of the wineskin that made it through into the bottle of wine. No, sir. You are then literally on life support, the spiritual walking dead, proverbially, literally, physically, perhaps. And Jim had that love of God and that thirst all the time inside of him. We'll be powwowing together, and we are working already. The living are working together in spiritual Bluetooth synchronicity, in tandem, in concert with those of us who are on God's ground forces, contending. So I would tell the group, on one occasion I told them, so my 24/7 of taking it easy, taking the chill pill, now this is about 20 years ago I said this. I said my version of that is that the 24 hours for the preacher teacher is chopped up and spread out across the entire week, that I don't take an absolute 24/7 normally. And in my normal day-to-day getting my sustenance, what I can to make ends meet, I have a daily quota. I've divided that daily quota up because the cabbie stays on call across a 7-day schedule. Although I take my time, a block of time during the day. I bought tickets for the new Ant-Man movie, for example. Nerd and geek I preach to, and that I am myself. So I take a moment, but I am not immune to the irrational whispers of doubt, discouragement, and depression, the father of lies, issues to us that we need to aspire to get as much as we can, like these idiots over in Europe right now who are gathering at Davos. The endless, exhausting, insatiable, lustful, completely sinful avarice, the greed that consumes them, it can never be quenched. They want to do a lot of people harm at the expense so that they can have the newest year's Rolls Royce or whatever the latest temporary candy is. The Bible clearly states, keep this in the back of your mind, clearly states that money is not the root of evil. It's the obsession with the money. So if God gives you just enough to be able to enjoy a food that you can't normally afford every other day, even better. You know why? Because then when you do finally gather up the money between the sofa cushions to be able to say, hey, let's go we haven't had that meal in a while that we really liked way back when, talking to my better half, my significant other, who's getting ready to join me for the observance at the National Cemetery in within an hour. She's going to be here. Let's go. Let's plan for it. Because if you have it every day, imagine if you were to eat that gold-plated, edible gold steak, the cutlet, you would eat it and be like, classic example, I worked in the hospitality industry for almost 3 decades before emerging into a greater understanding of what my true purpose in life was. Rat race. And I was the lead server at a fine dining restaurant, Italian it happened to be, and in walked a guy, I'll never forget him, at night. I wear my sunglasses at night. Comes into my section, gets sat. The special of the day was beef tenderloin, filet mignon, the softest, the most expensive cut that's available. And I go into my spiel, greeting the guests and explaining. I often talked with my hands at the table. The guy was a walking billboard for fancy clothing manufacturer, Italian also. The guy probably was Italian because all his clothing. I mean, his dark sunglasses had the name of the clothier on them. He had cufflinks, fancy schmancy, with the name of the clothier on him. Now maybe he worked for the company, who knows? But he was terrible. So he was like the Walking Dead. First of all, if you're working for downstairs, the demonic operatives, you may get what you want. You may have signed a blood compact on the dotted line with yours or a relative's blood, but to what end? You don't get to enjoy it. You become this dry husk, the inedible, the exterior wheat germ husk. You're not the wheat. What's edible, what's of value on the inside, that is you and I. Wake up, Sleeping Beauty. The most horrible thing happened on that occasion at the restaurant. The guy orders the filet mignon. The place is completely mobbed, packed. It's a weekend night. Completely packed. There's a long waiting line to get in. He's eating by himself. Snobby, dry husk. 15 minutes after ordering. Now, this is unacceptable. That's what makes it a memorable story that has gotten a lot of mileage since. The kitchen calls me. That's how backed up they were. And they said, we've been out of this steak special for the last 10 minutes. So this guy, who if you have money to be able to afford that kind of meal each and every day, you don't like it anyway because you had it too much. You lose your appetite for the very thing that you sold out your soul for, dum-dums, for the very same thing. So I had to go back with my tail between my legs, and I know how to talk to people, to tell them, look, sir, we're out, but we have a delicious same cow, same vendor of the meat, same high quality, same ranch, New York strip. He was pissed. I bring him the steak, and literally, guys, this is what happened. He has his fork and his knife. He goes like this. One move. Ah, he said really loud, like the whole restaurant. Ah, throws the cutlery at the plate, and he goes, this is hurting my wrist. This is hurting my wrist. Take it away. Just like that. I can look back now and laugh at the whole stupidity. But guys, we don't want to live with regrets. And with Jim, always a beautiful host at his house, and my love to his wife, Karen, who continues hosting church there, and Gandalf. Our ambassador Gandalf was the brother-in-law, and still is, I suppose, in title. Because remember, the marriage is dissolved in heaven. That's a discussion for another day. But we still have the camaraderie. We still have the drive, right? We're on the same page. One Lord, one faith, one baptism. We're in it together. And we go through each and every week on Sunday to celebrate communion, to remind ourselves of that compact. Have yourself a great day. I needed to get this off. Oh, here's the other reason why I needed to get it off. I wanted to make sure about this, though. And I haven't even gotten to it. Sorry for the lucidity. Yesterday, when I gave the intro, I completely meant to say, I'm coming full disclosure, that I meant to say Exodus 20. And then I'm reviewing the video afterward, and I said Ezekiel 20. But then I said to myself, wait a minute. I go, maybe this is not an accident. Let me look up Ezekiel 20. And Ezekiel 20 was, to me, and this is why I'm bridging this. This is what this intro is to provide a bridge and ushers in a double issue on the daily devotional today, to say that the Sabbath itself, observing it, was about the earthbound things that you can buy, the earthbound things, not the heavenly, priceless treasures that are ours already as royals and immortals. They're already in our possession. So one of the things that I was reminded about, because just recently, I lost Kathy, who's up in heaven. I feel her. I am comforted by that. She was my best customer on earth. She was a temporal blessing that the Lord through her gave to me 4 to 5 times a week. It's very difficult to replace somebody like that. And so I got a little shaken up. Well, where's that bread and butter going to come from, Lord? It's human. That's the initial instinct, right? But then over the last couple of days, I would say, especially within the last 48 hours, I've been feeling like, go about your business. Don't shortchange what you put together for the ministry, certainly. I cannot think, and the answer is that it has never happened, of 1 month, even during pandemic, even when I fell into the coma, was given a 30% chance to live, during all of that, the revenue stream was not so disrupted as to say, well, you're not going to make it this month. That has not happened. It is important to save your, don't spend more than you take in, and keep a little in reserve, so that when there's periods of feast famine, you can open the storehouse and you have something there that can sustain you. That is very important. And I have done that a little bit, tiny. Blue collar, shall we say. Certainly not white collar, a little bit. So during this time of the year, there was a little bit of economic disruption, especially on the heels of Kathy, who, her alone, put this in the database, her alone represented 1/3 of my taxi income. 1/3 wiped off the books completely. Got nervous. But then I distinctly hear, I receive impressions. I'm not claiming I hear word for word. I don't need to. I have faith. The evidence of the unseen. But I distinctly got the impression that go about your business somehow, some way, shape, form, where you're going to come up a little short. It's not going to stop what you've been doing. And so I, as is the nerd geek style, I bought myself a new swag. One of them you'll see tomorrow. You know, one of the things I do to try to enlighten the troops is a t-shirt, big deal, at Walmart often. $5 is the case too. That says something about, important to remember, you must never lose your childlike sense of wonder and amazement. And if you compare that, PAIR, if you compare that with what you want to say about God, and in witnessing and evangelizing and reaching out to other people, all the better. Because who do you think in the first place gave you the things that makes you, that's edible, uplifting, and inspirational, not that drags you down, but those things in the first place, it is they. You made uniquely, unorthodox, fearfully and wonderfully, then for the purposes of paying forward presentation. Remember, guys, a lot of things that are in your possession, including what makes you you, was never just meant for you. It was always meant as provision to share and pay forward. That's all I'm going to say for today. Holy kids, we'll see you probably in 2 days, because this will be now a double issue that we're going to put out. My love to Jim and the family, and Ambassador Gandalf, as always. Soli and I love you tremendously. Team Jesus.